Hey everybody, welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. So today we're going to do Cocktails and Rocktails, as usual. But today is June 27th. It is the 19th anniversary of the day that John Entwistle died. So we're going to talk about that today. Kind of want to get it out of the way anyway, because a lot of people have questioned me about it, have asked me when I'm going to do this one. I figured today of all days was the most appropriate. So grab some red wine, folks, because we know how much John loved his red wine. Kick back, relax. Let's have a little rocktail, shall we? Okay. So June 26, 2002, I was living in Las Vegas, minding my own business. I was 17 years into my little rock and roll groupie fantasy by this point. Very well known. In Las Vegas, I never went anywhere else but the Hard Rock Hotel. I was always there. You can guarantee, if I was there, Steve Jones was there, Vinnie Paul was there. I was with whatever musicians, actors, whatever I wanted to be. I was at every VIP party and every concert, and this is when the joint was like a 3,000 seater. I mean, the Hard Rock was my haunt the whole 8.5, 9 years I lived in Las Vegas. I didn't pay for my Dom Perignon there, and I felt safe there. We knew every security guard, we knew all the bartenders, we knew everybody there, me and my friends. So where was I going to go? Hard Rock Hotel. So by the time this happens, I was already very well known there, and my friends and I were already very welcome there. Like I said, we knew everybody. We had our own cocktail waitresses, our own bartenders, our own security guards. You know, if you were in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve, there would be a line outside the Hard Rock for at least a mile down Paradise Road. And people being turned away because, no, we're at capacity. Well, me and my bestie, we could just pull up to Valet, which was also supposedly full. Get out of our car, walk right in, because there was always room there for us, because it was our place. That's how well known we were there. So by the time June 27, 2002 rolls around, this was no surprise that I come June 26th, the night of, to be with John. And that was my one goal. I wanted John. I wanted to be with him again. I wanted to see him again. He had been in town a couple years earlier, with the iBash show, which I'll vlog about later, but surprise happened. So, cock-blocked. One of us was cock-blocked anyway. So, June 26, 2002, I get to the Hard Rock. John's there with Cy, his best friend. His art dealer, Bill Everly, is there with his wife, Laura. Some of the roadies are already in town, but Roger and Pete were not in town yet. None of the other band members were actually in town because the show was not the next day. The show was the day after that. John just happened to be in town because on that 27th was his art show. As most people know, John was an artist, and he had a show opening at one of the galleries in town. So he had come in a day early. And Cy and John and everybody had gone out and grabbed something to eat before I got there, and went to this Western Shepler's, something like that, because John wanted to buy some Western clothes like he liked to dress in. So they went there. By the time they get back, they're over at the VIP sidebar by the front doors at the Hard Rock at the time. So I go over there. I see there's a last picture that was taken of John, and it's not the last picture, so let's get that straight right there. But there was a picture that was taken that was sold by the stripper. I use that word loosely for her because I knew who she was. By the stripper who was at the table. I saw them at the table, so I avoided the table because I didn't want to get caught up in a picture. I didn't want to be in anybody's way or be bothered by any of that, because that was never my goal. I did not want to be known to the world. I mean, by this night, like I said, I was 17 fucking years into my rock and roll groupie life. If I hadn't come out to the tabloids by this time, I wasn't going to, because that was not my plan. So I stayed away from the picture. These strippers who took the picture, and like I said, I'll pop it in this video somewhere or down in the description. It's on my Facebook page for my book on Facebook. I posted it because someone who was at the table at the time, at the table when this picture was taken, was John, his best friend since they were kids, Cy, who has also produced some early Who Who albums, was also John's personal assistant on and off the road and business associate. Everybody say hi to Suki. He's making his daily appearance. So anyway, and so Bill, at the table was John, Cy, Bill Everly, and Bill's wife, and a roadie named Roger, I think that was his name. Because I remember thinking Roger Daltrey and him had the same name. So these girls who took the picture are gone. I come up to the table. Roger, the roadie, is getting ready to leave the table. And I come up and I just plop myself down on John's lap. This is apparently where I'm comfortable, because all these stories I tell, I'm always on somebody's fucking lap. I guess it's a way of staking my claim. Not getting through me if I'm on their lap, are ya? No other groupie's gonna dare come near any musician with a girl on his lap. So anyway, sit down and I'm like, oh, John, I always thought you were so sexy. Just flirting, being stupid, silly. And conversation starts going. About 30, 40 minutes later, he's like, hey, let's go upstairs. And I'm like, oh, am I coming? Yes, okay, good. I was so excited because, like I said, I'll vlog later about what happened the previous time John was in town. So it was rock and roll is a hit and miss situation, and this one was a miss for sure. So I'm all happy because there is nothing this night stopping John and I from being together. And we're on our way. The Hard Rock had only one tower and had just opened up their second tower at the time. So we're headed to the second tower up to John's suite, which was 658 for the record. That one's been blown out of proportion a lot. So room 658 in the second tower of the Hard Rock. We're headed towards the elevator, and some guys did stop us and take pictures. I've seen the pictures. They're not in my possession. I am in the background. And these guys were really awesome because they didn't sell these pictures out for a price right after John died. They still have not. Like I said, I've seen these pictures, but they're not in my possession. So anyway, we go to the elevator. The fans are watching John. I'm like, woohoo, I'm going up with my rock star. It's a normal Thursday night for me. Right? 17 years of groupiness. So we go upstairs to his room, and you walk into the suite. And it was a one-bedroom suite. So you walk in, and there's just a little hallway. And right here on the corner as you walk in is the hotel, is a bar, like a big bar where you could have a bartender come up and do a private service. Right here is, if you wanted a second bedroom attached to your suite, was an adjoining room, but the doors were locked. This room will come into play. And when you walk to the living room area of the suite, like if you're coming in the door, right here is the TV stand and the whole TV console and center, it sits in the big furniture thingy. And then this green kind of windy couch and a couple chairs over here by the balcony. Right here behind the couch were two doors into the bedroom of the suite where the bathroom was. So we walk into the suite, we sit down, we start talking, and the conversation turns to about me being in college, because I was studying art history in college at the time. I had just been accepted to a university over in the UK that has the top-notch art history program, one of the top-notch in Europe. Funded by Prince Charles. All the top curators and art dealers and authenticators get their interns from this program. So I was so excited. And we were talking about it, and John's an artist too. So on the ever-present pad and paper that's in the hotel room, we grabbed it, and he's like, well, and Cy came up with the idea that John started drawing, or I started drawing, and one of us finish it. So that's what we were doing. I drew this little bird, this ostrich bird that I sometimes draw that's just a cartoon that I like to draw. He finishes it. He starts to draw a buzzard bass. I finish it. And I know where this pad and paper is at this moment in time, the last time I saw it. So it does still exist. It is still around. Maybe I'll get it one of these days. Who knows? So John and I were just drawing back and forth. Well, at some point, the phone in John's suite rang, and Cy picked it up and was talking to whoever was on the line. He said, "Yeah, we're in the, yeah, bring it on down. You've got it, cool." So 5 minutes after this phone call, in walks the roadie that was at the table earlier with this black hat. In the picture, like I said, I'll post it somewhere here if I can, or try and squeeze it into the video. So he's got this black, what I call the Richie Sambora hat on with the conch shells. And John was joking that Roger the roadie's forehead looked so wrinkly, it looked like his hat screwed onto his head. And I'll be damned if it didn't. Yeah, fucking bastard. I hate this guy because I have good reason. We'll talk about that. So anyway, he comes in the room, delivers the cocaine. And that is where the cocaine came from. I'm tired of being blamed for this because I was the stripper. And because I lived in Vegas. Roadies and rock stars can get cocaine anywhere in the world that they want. And they have private planes, so they can bring it on their private plane. Well, this night, Roger the roadie brought John the cocaine. Tired of being blamed. So, anyway, goes out. John and I are sitting on the couch. We're just talking. He's got his hand on my leg. And he reaches over and he just kisses me. Like, he just grabs the back of my neck and just gently, real gently. And he had beautiful hands. Like, I loved his hands. They were nice and veiny and strong and thick and had a big pinky, like a big pinky. And we all know how I feel about that pinky. Never done me wrong, babies. So he reaches up, he grabs me, and I always forget like how much fun we were having because it was overshadowed by everything that happened in the aftermath. And how good it felt to have him grab me, you know, and just kiss me. Because being a groupie, bands aren't in town all the time, and neither was Steve Jones or Vinnie Paul at the time. So I miss kissing, and John was an excellent kisser. So we kissed, and he just leaned back, and he's like, "I just had to test it out." And I'm like, "Did I get your approval?" He's like, "Oh yeah, baby, you passed with flying colors." You got flying colors on. And reached in, gave me a little quick peck on the cheek, and I look over, and there's Cy with the credit card counting all four of us in the room. He's like, "I just want to know how many lines to chop." I don't do cocaine. You guys will hear these stories, and cocaine will be around maybe 3 times, and this is one of them. Cocaine's not my thing, but I'm nobody's mother. So I told Cy, "No, I don't do cocaine, but can I chop it out? I like to chop cocaine. I don't know why, but I'm a Virgo. I'm OCD, so I like to get those lines nice and straight." But I didn't even chop the cocaine because John's like, no, stay here. So they each did a line, John, Cy, and Bill. It's getting later in the night. It's around 3 o'clock in the morning or something. I think we went into the room is what they read the next morning, and the police report said around 1:58. So it's around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. So Bill's saying, "I've got to go get ready, things ready for the art show tomorrow." John's like, "Okay, good night." And John and Cy are talking about the wake-up call the next morning. And Cy leaves the room. John and I are alone. So we get up from the couch, and he just grabs my hand and kind of takes me in the bathroom or into the bedroom, and I excuse myself to the ladies' room, come out. And I was wearing a silver belt. I was just wearing these white pants with this spaghetti strap, light yellow, light blue, and white striped top, and a silver kind of chain belt. So I come out of the bathroom with the belt off because I'm just gonna take it off. I'm preparing. No point in putting this bitch back on. It's gonna come off in a few minutes anyway. So John's like, "What's that, handcuffs?" I'm like, "No, it's my belt." I'm like, "Why, do you want it to be handcuffs?" He's like, "Well, we'll figure that out later, but right now, just come here, love." So I kind of tossed the belt over the back of the chair because there was a desk right outside the bathroom. Like, the desk is here, the bedroom's here, the bathroom's here, the living room's behind us. So now we're in the bedroom, and I'm facing the bed, and John comes over and just slips his arms and just starts kissing me again, and just like cradled me, and just, oh God, he was such a great kisser. And I loved the touch of his hands, because there's just something about a real good musician's hands that he knows how to touch a woman like he touches his bass or his drums or whatever. Well, maybe not the drums, bad example. But so anyway, and we're kissing, we're making out, and he's like, oh yeah. And clothes are starting to come off. We're getting ready to do our thing, you know. And I taken my shirt off, and he's getting my bra for me, and I'm trying to unbutton his shirt. And, you know, it's different because guys' sides buttons are different from women, so I'm ready to just rip that bitch open. I'm ready to get me some. I'm a horny thing, aren't I? I love sex. Anyway, so, and I just kicked my pants off at some point, and he just kind of looked at him like, aren't you going to pick those up? I was just gonna slink over, pick up my white pants and fold them neatly over with the rest of the stuff on the chair in front of the desk. And you want to know what happens here? Come to Patreon, guys, because yeah, we'll talk about that more on Patreon. Anyway, so this all goes on, and John and I are just hanging out, and I just got along with him so well. We always just had a really great rapport just talking and being able to just feel comfortable and happy and enjoy each other's company, even outside the bed. And we were doing more of this. And he was talking about his home and things that were going on at home that I'm not going to talk about here. Maybe someday I will. But goes along kind of that my whole idea when I was going up there that night was I wanted to see John more and see him out on the road more. And then after the tour is over, see what happened next and take it home maybe. And that was the goal. And we were just kind of talking about what was going on at home and stuff like that, which I'm not going to talk about here. Anyway, so, and we kept saying, oh God, we're tired, let's go to sleep. Well, we'd crawl into bed, and I'm on, you know, if you're facing the end of the bed, I'm on the right side, he's on the left side of the bed, and the windows to the balcony are over here, doors to the living room behind us, bathroom over here. So anyway, we're laying on the bed, and he keeps rolling over, and he's like, hey, if I sleep on my side and turn my back to you, don't take it offensively, because I don't like to sleep on my back. I've lost some friends who choked on their own vomit. Of course, I knew who he was talking about, John Bonham and Jimi Hendrix among them, and obviously Keith Moon. So he doesn't like to sleep on it. John didn't like to sleep on his back, and I kind of knew this already. Anyway, so, you know, he's like, he wanted to make sure I wasn't offended, that he knew that he was really enjoying my company and that he respected me. This is kind of the approach he took. And so he was like, he's like, all right, love, good night. We'll see you in the morning. Had a nice long lingering kiss. Then he rolls over. He's on his side. His back is to me. And he grabs my arm. He's like, come and cuddle, come and cuddle. So he always wanted me to always cuddle on him. So I put my arms around him. We're spooning. And then he turns around. He's like, I just want to kiss you some more. And then we started talking. So he kissed me again. And then we'd roll over. We'd go to bed. And then I'd be on my side. And he would come and finally, and these were his last words. It was good night for the 4th time. And we finally went to bed. A lot of news outlets from back in the day and even currently have reported that our conversation about him not wanting to die like Keith Moon and Jimi Hendrix and stuff, that was not our last conversation. That was something that I had said the next morning when I was being interrogated. So that was not something that was ever... That shows me the cops sold out to the press too, so motherfuckers. Everybody will be anybody's bitch for a few $100s, won't they? So anyway, that was not his last words. That was part of our last conversation, yes. His last words were good night for the 4th time. And we had a nice, wonderful, long, lingering kiss, and we went to sleep. Yeah. Somewhere in the night, and I don't think I even write about this in my book, and it bothers me to this day. Give me a second. Okay, sorry, I had to pause. But somewhere in the night, and John had told me before, and he even told me this night, that he snored. Oh, and the funny part is, he was so worried about, John was always so worried about his hair. One of the things he said while we were in our mini kisses goodnight, that He's like, don't be afraid of my hair in the morning because it's going to look a bit like the Mad Hatter. And I'm like, I haven't seen that before. Never afraid in the morning. I love the morning after. But, so, he told me he snored, and, you know, if it bothered me, just sort of nudge him and he'll quit. And I knew he snored. All guys snore that I've ever shared a bed with, every single one of them, and that's a lot. So, anyway, so we go to sleep, and somewhere in the night, we've all had this moment where we're just sort of rolling over, and we're half asleep, and we're half awake. And I have beat the shit out of myself for almost 20 years over this. I was rolling over, kind of halfway asleep, kind of halfway awake, and heard what I thought was John snoring. And this is probably around 7 o'clock in the morning at the time. I'd never paid attention to clocks because I don't have to get up to an alarm clock. I don't have, you know, I was a stripper. I could do whatever I wanted, when I wanted, at what time I wanted. So I know there was some light coming in from the edges of the curtains, and I thought I heard him snoring. So I just rolled over and went back to sleep. And it didn't dawn on me at that moment in time that normally when I would roll over, John would either grab my hand if I was facing his back or if he was facing my back. There would always be some sort of, here, snuggle up against me. Well, there wasn't. But again, I just thought he was snoring, and it was an odd snore. I didn't think anything of it. But you look back on it now, the next morning, and honestly, I think it was his last breath. So, I've never talked about this before, so if there was something I could have done, that I would change it. But I just thought it was him snoring. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but it's something I beat myself up to this day, 19 years later. So yeah. And then the next morning it happened. And I woke up. I went to the bathroom. Hold on. I need a drink for this. And as you do in the morning, totally naked. The morning after, I'm walking to the bathroom thinking, well, I hope John's really nice and stiff for me when I get back. Okay. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, I hope he's nice and hard for me when I come back, because I'm naked looking at my cute little butt, because I have a cute little butt. Hoping he's watching my naked ass go to the bathroom and just waking up like I was. So, sorry. I come out of the bathroom, and I crawl up the end of the bed from the corner, and John's on his back facing, or John's on his side, and he's facing the window, so his back's toward me. So I go up. Oh, actually, no, it was facing me. God, I forget. It was facing me because the way his face was in the pillow. So anyway, just like I said, over time, I've tried to kind of put this at the back of my mind and remember the good time that John and I were having that night. Because we were having a great time. He went out laughing, enjoying himself, and really enjoying himself. So, anyway, I crawl up on the bed, and John's got the covers up to about here, just under his chest. So, and I touch his arm, and he's cold, but he kept the room extra cold. He liked it cold like I did, and this is Vegas in June. It's 120 degree outside. It's like 60 degrees inside this hotel room. So you'd expect somebody's body to be a little bit colder to the touch. So I'm like, hey, John, wake up. I'm like, hey, baby, wake up. And I'm kind of like, you know, nudging him a little bit as you do, and kind of lay down next to him, pushing his shoulder a little bit. Why is he so fucking cold? And as I laid down, I see how his face is in the pillow, and it was just smashed in the pillow, and I see this red rash down his body. And I'm like, the fuck? That wasn't there last night. What the hell? And he's just not waking up, and it's just like, it dawns on me how really eerily silent this room is. There is a whole thing to this whole dead silence. Yeah, it's a whole different thing, and I hope to God nobody here ever has to find out what it is. because I did this day. So, and I start kind of shaking him a little hard, like, John, wake up, John. And I'm shaking him, and I couldn't get him to wake up. So I realized at that moment it's hitting me that he is not motherfucking waking up. And in my mind, all I can think of is this is not fucking happening. This is not happening. God, it's been so long since I talked about this, and I haven't had this reaction to it. I'm sorry, you guys. So I go backwards off the bed. I tried to stand on my feet, and my legs just went weak. I just fell to the floor. And my mind is racing, still thinking, this is not motherfucking happening. This is not happening. I'm like, John! I finally get back to my seat, run to his side of the bed, and start trying to pull him onto his back. And again, there's a whole thing to this dead weight. He's already got, what this red rash was lividity. And he's in rigor mortis. Like, he had been gone long enough to have rigor set in. So I'm trying to get him onto his back and trying to remember how to do CPR, because that day in high school that we learned CPR in health class, me and Adam my friend Adam were on acid. And what are you going to learn on that scary dummy when you're on acid? So I'm trying to, sorry you guys, I don't mean to sniff. That was gross. So anyway, I'm getting John onto his back, and I am trying to stay calm this whole thing. I am like breathing in and out. My mind is racing. I'm trying to figure out, is it 3 on the chest and 3 in the mouth? So I'm trying to do CPR, and I'm doing it, and I'm trying to, and it's just, his body is rejecting the air. So it's making this messed up sound. Sorry, guys. But, so I realize it just fucking struck upside the back of the goddamn head. And, you know, on the nightstand next to the bed, on John's side of the bed, was his Boris necklace, the turquoise one. And that's why I'm wearing the turquoise today, in honor of that one. And his pills, because he had a bunch of pills that he was taking with vitamins and pills for his blood pressure and everything. And so next thing I do is I've got to call 911. So I race around, I grab the phone, I'm like, call the front desk, because I just press 0. That's all I know. Press 0, I'm like, yeah, I need 911. My friend's not waking up. I need an ambulance here. She's like, oh, let me connect you. I'm like, connect me? Motherfucking connect me? What, you can't call 911 yourself? Yeah, I don't have time for you to connect me. I was on hold for a couple minutes, and finally they were like, 911. I'm like, yeah, I need you room 658 at the Hard Rock Hotel. I'm like, my friend's not waking up. Slam the phone down, you know, go running across the room, because I'm like, I've got to call someone, I've got to call the rooming list. And thank God it was me in that room, because I know a rock and roll hotel room like the back of my hand. There's always going to be a rooming list. At the time they were paper. Now they're going to be on the guys' phones or computer in their email. But there's always a rooming list. So I'm running around, and I kind of went out to the living room for a second, ran back in the bedroom, and saw the desk where my clothes were folded. I'm still naked. Keep in mind, I am still butt-ass naked. So I see the rooming list, and I call Sai's room. I'm like, Sai, you need to get down here now. John is not waking up. Well, next thing I know, I go back to John, and I'm still doing CPR, and I'm still trying to get this going, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh my God, Sai's gonna, I realize I'm naked. I'm grabbing my clothes. I throw on my pants. Just grab my shirt. Don't even bother with the bra and shoes and belt. Fuck that. So go running out the far side, by John's side of the bed, by the windows. I go running out that door, because I start to hear someone at the front door in the living room of the hotel rooms, you know, trying to come in. And John's got a copy of the key. So Sai has an extra key for John's room, as he usually did on the road. So I go running out. There's people starting to open the door. And it wasn't just Sai and Rex King, who had worked for Metallica and other bands that I knew, coming in the room. There was bodies of people about to spill into this room. So I'm running in the living room. I go past the big TV center, And I look on the top, and oh my fucking God, if there wasn't the cocaine from last night still chopped on there. And my purse is sitting right next to it. So I just, and this door's opening. My shirt is still not on. So I huffed and I puffed. And this is the only thing I had to do with that cocaine, is I blew it the fuck out of the way. Got it the hell off of there. Got it out of sight. Just, and they came in and right then, I mean, that cocaine had just been blown off. Just wiped, because there was a towel right next to it, and I just like blew it and wiped it with the towel and pushed it all behind the TV center. They couldn't prove that was John's or anything, but that could have been there since before John was there. So I just got rid of it, and right then that door just opened, and in came the EMTs, in came Cy, in came Rex King. Rex saw me and he was like, oh shit. In came a couple uniform cops. And I don't have my shirt on, so I just turned around and put my shirt on. And they were like, who called 911? And I was like, me. And Rex is like, are you okay? He's like, oh, holy shit. I don't know if he recognized me from Metallica or not, but he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I just sort of sat down at a bar stool by the bar. And there was an older uniform cop and a younger uniform cop. And younger Butch cop, as I will call him, because he had that, Butch haircut. So Butch cop comes over and he's like, so who was the last person to see him? And Cy and everybody's standing in the room, because Cy had gone in with the EMTs, I believe. And came out and he's like, yeah, he's not going to wake up. And I'm like, is he okay? He's like, no, he's dead. And I was like, oh, fuck, because I'm looking at Cy. This is his best friend since they were in school. This is his boss. This is the bass player of The Who. This whole situation with the cocaine and the stripper in the room and everything. I'm looking at poor Cy, who just lost his fucking best friend and has to hold it together. And I felt like shit for him. And I remember walking out of the room for a minute. The cops, it was before they kind of started talking to me, and they were like, who was the last person that saw him? And I raised my hand. And Cy turns around and makes the quip, lucky guy if you ask me. Lucky in some ways, yeah. Absolutely. Not going to die. Because if it was any other woman in there, things wouldn't have gone the way they did. So, in the aftermath. So, I remember walking out of the room briefly and just sliding down the frame of the doorway. And just in tears. And my mom had just flown to Florida. So, to visit one of my sisters. So, I call my sister. And I'm like, hey, is mom there? She's like, what's going on? What's the matter? I'm like, it's John. And she knew what I was doing, and my whole family knew I was a groupie, hung out with rock stars. So she's like, what? She's like, did he hit you? Did he hurt you? She's like, I will kick his ass if he hurt you. I'm like, no, he's dead. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, he's dead. And right then the door opened, and it was one of the uniform cops. He's like, I need to talk to you. I'm like, I gotta go. The cops need to talk to me. She's like, holy fuck. So, and my mom is like, what the hell? Like, they had just come from and so they're worried about me. Cy's going to have to call John's mom, his son, Lisa, the girlfriend. That wasn't really the girlfriend at the time, but I'm not going to get into that. So, I mean, all this, we're all starting to churn in our heads, the reality, the domino effect that's going to go down. So I go in and I talk to the cop. And he's like, give me your name and address. So I give him the correct name and address. Never showed him my ID or anything. Asked for my phone number, as they would, in case we need to talk to you later. That's fine. Well, he went through my purse and he asked me if I had any weapons. My mom traveled a lot, and she had been to Switzerland a couple years before and brought us back Swiss Army knives. So I had this Swiss Army knife that was about yay big in my purse. Well, I got to make sure this is not a weapon. So the little butch cop, young cop, takes it and puts it in his belt and is walking around the room. And at some point, the head of security, Frank, had come in, who I knew, a couple other security guards, who I knew. And they were all like, everybody's, are you okay? Oh my God, Allison, holy shit. Is everything okay? And I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, there was EMTs, the coroners in the room at this point. There was Cy, there was Rex. There was a couple security guards. And it was like this party from the 70s, but it was no fucking party. Excuse me. So by this point, Rex and I are just sitting on the couch, and Rex King is trying to console me. And a lot of people have heard this name before in the movie Almost Famous. When they're doing the tour manager poker party, yeah, that was actually a thing, and that went on in the 80s. And every single one of the people they introduce is actually someone that is in real life. And Rex. This is Rex King. So he's sitting there and he's trying to console me and calm me down. And I'm like, I blew the cocaine off. So, you know, things were wiped down extra. You know, I finally got my purse with me. I'm like, does anybody give a shit if I smoke? So I had a cigarette. John's body's in there. The coroner's in there. They're going over everything. All of a sudden, 2 homicide detectives show up. Homicide. Yeah. Good times. So homicide shows up. Yeah. And I'm stuck in this room. And they make Rex inside. Everybody leave this room except for the coroner, the homicide detectives, and the 2 uniformed cops. And they've got me in this room for another 2 hours. Hour and a half at least. Every so often, Sire Rex would open the door to the... be like, are you okay? Because right next door, that door I told you about when you walked in, that connected another room, was Rex King, who's tour manager's room. So it was right next to John's suite. The rest of the band was not in town yet. I don't believe Roger and Pete had left LA yet, but Zach Starkey was in town at this point, and so was Bill Kerbishley, the band's manager. So at some point, they finally let me out of the room, but it's not because I'm going to go home. It's because I'm being questioned by homicide in another suite bigger than John's. I'm like, I remember walking in this suite going, why the fuck doesn't he have this one? Because it's bigger. And these motherfuckers, Marty. This is one of the cops' names. There was Bald Cop and there was Marty Cop. Bald Cop is bad cop. Marty Cop is trying to be sweet cop. So they start talking about, did I see any cocaine? Was there anything funny going on? Did I have any weapons? You know, the usual questions that you expect. Then they get to this question. So what were you doing with him? So, well, I'm a groupie. I hang out with musicians. No, but you're so young and he's so old. Are you sure there was no money exchanged? And they had asked me so many questions. At this point, I was so tired. I wanted to go the fuck home. That is all I wanted. So I was like, no, fuck no. I'm like, I do not. I said, do you guys not understand what a groupie is? I said, I've been hanging out with rock stars for 17 goddamn years now. I'm like, this was a fucking normal Thursday night for me. If you can't understand that, I'm sorry. But no money was ever exchanged at all, period. And this is why I'm so defensive of it, because I get accused all the time because I was a stripper of being a hooker. And again, I've proven legally many times over the past almost 20 years that no, I'm not. And we can ask Roger Daltrey about that. And Brian Johnson of AC/DC, you're going to be asked about that too. Get your lawyers ready, bitch. Yeah, I'm really defensive about this. So I'm like, no. And I explained to them that I've been hanging out with rock stars. You know, I may be a stripper, but I'm not some seedy stripper. Because all the strippers I knew at the time, we were all just normal girls who knew our daddies comes from upper middle class money and were in college of some sort or another. It wasn't the stigmata. It was like we were all college girls and we all traveled the world and had made a career out of dancing. Like I'd been in 78 men's magazines, MTV, VH1, Spice Channel, Playboy Channel, XTV, Warp TV, French Vogue, French Cosmo, many other things. And this is all before John died. So stripping was a career. It wasn't just something I did. And it was something that I did because I could go to college, because I could travel the world and take off with rock stars whenever I wanted. And I would have the money to do it. So, and I have to explain myself to these guys when I shouldn't be having to explain myself, because these, Marty Cop and Bald Cop are just closed-minded assholes. So finally they let me go after about 45 minutes of interrogating me, but they say don't leave. So they take me into Rex's room. And in Rex's room is Zach Starkey, Rex King, Bill Kerbishley, and Cy. And I'm just sitting on the bed, and I look up at the TV, and they're all just kind of standing there, and, everybody is asking me if I'm okay, do I want anything? Rex and Zach were ordering veggie burgers because, yeah, they were hungry. I mean, they weren't cold or callous, but Zach had just got into town, I believe. And like I said, Roger and Pete were not here yet. Contrary to previous reports, they were not in town. So I'm sitting there. They take Cy. Bald Cop and Marty Cop take Cy into that same suite to question him about the night before. I don't believe they ever did talk to Bill Everly, the art dealer, because he was in another hotel altogether. And so anyway, I'm sitting in the room and, you know, everybody's talking to me. We're just all staring at the TV because already, and this is, you know, within 2-3 hours of me calling 911 at this point, it's probably about 3 hours in. It's already on CNN. Like, the whole front hotel is just covered, swarming with paparazzi. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get out of this hotel because, number one, there were plenty of people that saw me with John the night before, and I still have the same clothes doing the walk of shame from the night before. Number two, the Hard Rock is my haunt. Everybody knows me at that hotel. Everybody. And me and my friends were very well known in town from the VIP parties and stuff. I mean, we were the people that could walk into the Four Seasons brunch on a Sunday and get the center table what we wanted. So I was already well known around town and well respected. And I knew I was not going to get out of this hotel unnoticed. Just no way. No way. And at this point of the day, they had already closed off the 6th floor. Like, they had emptied it out. No one was allowed to go up and down from any floor, in and out of those elevators. No one could do anything. Like, that whole tower was just closed off, and that 6th floor was wiped out of people. No one was there. It was just crickets. So while I was still in the room, at some point, Marty Cop opens the door, you know, knocks on the door. I open it, and he peeks his head in. Are you sure you didn't get paid? No, I didn't. And Cy has even said to Roger, she was never a hooker. That's why she sued you. Even Cy knew that. Everybody in rock and roll knew I wasn't a hooker because most guys in rock and roll didn't know me as a stripper because I was a groupie for 5 years before I became a stripper. I was 20 years old, almost 21 when I became a stripper. So rock and roll didn't know me as a stripper. They just knew me as a groupie, and stripping was my job. So I just got pissed, and I just pretty much slammed the door. I said, no money was exchanged. Just slammed the door literally in his face because I knew right then that this was going to be an issue and I was not dealing with it. So finally the cops tell me I can go. I can go home. I knew I was not going to get out of that hotel. You know, the three guys, Cy, Bill, and Rex, and Zach were all standing there thinking, talking about how I was going to get out of the hotel, thinking I could just go unnoticed. I'm like, oh, hell no. I cannot go unnoticed. So I picked up the phone and I called security. And there was a security guard outside the door. I said, hey, you need to tell Frank. Because I was like, I need to speak to Frank, and Frank wasn't there. He was the head of security at the Hard Rock at the time. So the security guard that was right outside the doors between the suite and Rex's, I was like, hey, could you please radio Frank? Tell him Allison needs to get the fuck out. Put it just like that. So that's what he did. And 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. Everybody's giving me a hug. Everybody's got my number. I've got Cy's number. I've got everybody else's number that I need. We're going to talk later, of course, because, you know, they want to make sure that everything's private, and everything was private. So the security guard comes up. He's like, all right, we got you. There's 2 huge security guards that know me. One white guy, one African-American guy. One of them works at my strip club as well. So they come and get me out of the room, get me in the elevator. And the way the elevator sat with the second elevator, here's the elevator, and there was a curve going out to the main part of the casino right there. Well, they had it just completely roped off. Like, they weren't even letting anybody near these elevators. So when I came out of the elevator, there's 2 huge security guards, and they're like this. So this is pretty much all you could see of me was probably my hair, the top of my hair and the back of my hair, and maybe my feet. Even coming around that curb, because if you were like, and they had 2 security guards at the end of this blocking the way as well. So I walked out, did not go out the front of the hotel. I went out Frank had to call valet to have my car pulled out by these back doors in the underground parking in the back parking lot of the Hard Rock. So I went out those back doors, got in my GMC Jimmy, cruised out the back door, called my best friend. I had some joints in the ashtray, as I always did, especially when I was going to hang out with rock stars. Always bring joints. Lit up that joint, called my best friend and said, I do not want to go home. Went to my best friend, smoked a joint on the way, sat down. She was rolling another joint when I got there. Already had a drink ready and poured for me. And it's, you know, like 4 something in the afternoon. I am freaking the fuck out. She's watching it on CNN when I walk into her place, rolling a joint. And she's like, I guess you fucked him to death, didn't you? I said, honey, I'm good, but I'm not that good. So anyway, yeah, there we go. Just to tell you what really happened later, I was pulled in by homicide. They said to me, well, we figured you got the cocaine because, and this is after, about 6 weeks after, it was about a month later, because the coroner's report with the toxicology report had come out about a month later. But you guys, the rest of the world wasn't informed about this until for another 2 weeks. So homicide called me and pulled me in because obviously the cocaine had showed up, and all of us during our initial interview said, oh hell no, we don't know anything about cocaine. What are you talking about? So when I'm sitting in that little interrogation room in the cop station over on Charleston, and I was one off Sahara. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the room, and this is exactly what they said to me. And another reason I'm so fucking defensive. Well, we figured you got, because they were asking about the cocaine. Well, I guess you know why you're here. The toxicology report came back, yada, yada. Still, know nothing about it. Didn't bring it in the room. Which was really true. I didn't bring it in the room. So, and I don't do cocaine, so I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with the cocaine. That was not me. And I yanked out my hair and threw it on the table as if you don't believe me. And they said this, well, we figured you got the cocaine because you're in the club scene. Me being naive and knowing the strippers I knew were not these type of seedy women that they obviously were thinking I was, said, well, no, I don't go out to clubs. That's not my scene. I hang out at the Hard Rock, and really I'm a homebody unless there's a band in town. Both Bald Cop and Marty Cop looked a little shocked at my answer. And Marty kind of leaned back and was like, and you know, Bald Cop's getting all huffy and pissed and like, quit giving us the runaround. And Marty looked at me. He's like, no, honey, we meant strip club scene. Oh, so I'm a stripper. I'm a gacked out whore. And that's when I just yanked out a bunch of my hair and threw it on the table. I said, yeah. I said, you can test it. I don't do cocaine and I didn't bring in the room. Anything else here, gentlemen? No? Okay. Are you going to arrest me for anything? No? Okay. See you later, bitches. And this is why I get so defensive. Because I've constantly been blamed for John's death. I was just there. I'm the novelty of the greatest rock and roll death in history. And here we go, guys. This is a long vlog, I know. But there you go. There's the truth. Roger the Roadie brought the cocaine, and I did everything I could. Except that one moment in time. Maybe. And I beat the shit out of myself every day for it. So there you go, guys, on this anniversary of John Entwistle's passing. I wish that day had never happened. I wish Roger the Roadie wouldn't have come in with that cocaine. I wish my gut instinct would have told John not to do the cocaine because I wanted to tell him not to do it. Because I was so worried about how it would affect his cock. But that's the wrong organ to be worried about, wasn't it? So, and I don't mean to seem callous and cold, but I've had to build up a very rough shell because of it. And I've had to build up a big tolerance and an even bigger intolerance for it. Because as you see, it's really not a day that was the best day of anybody's life. It affected so many people. So there you go, guys. Here's to you, John. You really, truly were one of the greatest. You were the greatest musician, period. Not just bass player, musician. You were an incredible man. Were you perfect? No. But to me, you were always an incredible man, and I'm sorry I slept through it. So, things would have been a lot different had he lived. All right, John. Love you and miss you. So everybody, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bells. to be notified of much more fun cocktails and rocktails, because we are coming back next week with a little bit of more fun cocktails and rocktails. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in again. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bells.